Hello and welcome to the CPG Guys podcast, set at the intersection of commerce and tech. Your hosts, Sri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in a digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys.
Hello and welcome again to the CPG Guys podcast. I'm your co-host PVSB. I also moonlight as head of industry and client engagement at Flywheel, the commerce acceleration division of Omnicom. My co-host is the co-founder of Think Blue Consulting, the father of pop stars Ria Raj and Cat's Eyes Lara Raj. Their fans, of course, call him Papa Raj, but to me, he's my BFF Shri. This past June, Shri and I attended the Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity. Today's episode is a recording of a conversation that took place at La Résidence, our home on the Riviera. More on that in a moment. To our audience, if you're getting value from these conversations, we have three quick asks. First, subscribe to the CPG Guys podcast on whatever platform you're listening on right now, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, anywhere you get your podcasts. Hit that subscribe or follow button so that you never miss an episode. Second, leave us a rating. It takes only a couple of seconds and it makes an enormous difference in helping other CPG retail media professionals find us. We've built this community one listener at a time. A 5-star rating is the single best way you can help us keep growing it. So just scroll down and click the star rating. It's right there, right in your app, very easy to do. And third, follow us on LinkedIn. Between episodes, we publish thought leadership, industry analysis, and content you won't find anywhere else, all built for the CPG and retail community that you're already a part of. So search CPG Guys on LinkedIn and hit follow, or click the link in the digital show notes of this episode. Subscribe, rate, follow. 3 simple actions that help us bring you more of the conversations that matter. Now, today's episode came from an activation we hosted with CVS Media Exchange, the retail media division of CVS Health. This panel is called Full Funnel, How Brands Are Showing Up in Store. It features my conversation with Kristen DiCorleto, head of marketing for CVS Media Exchange, and Philip Durocher, chief marketing officer at Opella. Now, let's get to the conversation.
First and foremost, we are so happy to be working with CVS Media Exchange on today's panel. I have a history with CVS from 2014 to 2017. I led category personalization for the Extra Care loyalty program. So yes, I am the person responsible for the 6-foot-long register receipt. And Shri tells me no matter what I do the rest of my life, that's what's going on my tombstone. To my father's son, the tombstone's going to have to be 6 feet tall. Otherwise, I won't fit. But anyhow, so this is very near and dear to my heart. My heart is still in Woonsocket, though I am now living in Connecticut. So let me introduce our guest today for this conversation. First, Philip Durocher. And if you're asking, could he possibly be related to the late, great Leo Durocher, manager of the Dodgers, who was the very first manager of my idol, Jackie Robinson? The answer is yes, he is. He serves as the chief marketing officer, brand and innovation.
Wait, you're related to Jackie Robinson?
I can tell. Shri only listens every third one. I thought,
What is going on?
He's a little slow, but I get it. Here's the people ask me why I hang out with Shri. Most people don't know this. The IRS considers him to be a charitable deduction. I can take the time I spend with him off of my time. So what I was saying, Opella is the $5 billion consumer self-care company behind the iconic OTC brands, including Allegra, IcyHot, Dulcolax, Cunol, and Corzone 10. Formerly spun out of Sanofi, Opella operates with what Philip has described as a challenger mindset, pairing the scale of a global portfolio with the speed and agility of a startup. Prior to Opella, Philip held senior leadership roles at Galderma and Colgate-Palmolive, bringing deep experience across consumer health, personal care, and brand building. Kristen DiCorleto. She's head of marketing at CVS Media Exchange, better known as CMX, the Health and Wellness Retail Media Network division of CVS Health. One of the founding members when it launched in 2026 years ago, Kristen brings more than 20 years of experience in marketing and media across retail and financial services. She helped build CMX from the ground up, started at 10 people, growing the team to the nationally recognized force it is today. Before CMX, Kristen held a series of progressive roles at CVS Health in digital marketing, omnichannel, and health services. So, Phil, Kristen, welcome. So I've got questions, these kind of answers. Does that work well? That's good. All right. So let me set the landscape. Increasingly in a fragmented media landscape, brands and retailers are recognizing the physical store as a full funnel media channel for engaging consumers. The challenge is managing a balance between digital saturation and in-store influence. Kristen, my first question is retail media to date has largely been defined as digital. Most retail media started as owned and operated on-site kind of like search ads, but it's gotten so much bigger. What has changed that makes the physical store such a critical channel right now?
I think one for CMX is that we've always looked first at where the extra care customer behavior is. And so we actually built CMX offsite first because we know that 90% of our transactions still take place in our CVS pharmacy retail locations. And so we are first using, and we still are today, really performative offsite channels to drive customers to CVS.com. And we know that over half of those customers that visit CVS.com actually go into the CVS pharmacy location within 48 hours to make a purchase, which is very in line with the US customer behavior overall. I think it's 80% plus consumers still make most of their transactions in store. And we actually see that that's even more significant for CVS pharmacy customers, where it's around, I think, 62% exclusively shop in store. We see that 67% of those people actually make a transaction once a week in our store. So just the frequency of touch points that we're able to make with our customers in stores is significant. And if brands are trying to reach those extra care customers and drive brand growth at CVS, they can't solely reach them through digital channels. They need to ensure that that's a really connected experience.
What I would add to that is that, especially for discovery, I find that, having the combination of online and then going to see something in store, allows that shopper to see what's new, to touch it, feel it, and decide whether or not maybe they'll consider it. And then if it's a repeat purchase, I can understand why people get, more into that route behavior of ordering online. But when it's the point of innovation, just kind of looking for maybe new brands and products, I think is nothing that replaces that experience.
Definitely.
So, Kristen, you've talked about the stores being a point of decision making. What does that actually mean in practice for brands? And we'll ask Philip to comment on that too.
Yeah, I think just building off with what Philip just mentioned as well, is that oftentimes we find that some customers have a list. They might start actually building online, and then they come in with a very intentional mindset to shop a category, to shop a brand. But it's the moment of decision making that Philip just talked about, and how can we actually drive conversion and brand switching behavior at the register, at the point of shelf. And CVS, we have multiple points of intersection to deliver that brand message. So with our front store screens that we recently introduced, with our digital signs in our drive aisles, our waiting area screens at pharmacy, and most recently our checkout ads as well. So the brands now have multiple points of engagement, not just the price and the shelf tag at the moment of decision. I think there's a lot of brand messages that can go into leading up to that decision at shelf.
I think that's a great pivot for CVS, because I think people were in probably a behavior of looking for either the offer or coming in with an offer. And now I think there's a chance to really engage with that shopper at multiple touch points in the store and really get them to think beyond just, okay, what's the yellow tag for the week or whatever. And really start to think about how that brand or that product can make a difference.
One of the challenges I have to imagine you as a brand marketer are facing is the old days of running a couple of national advertisements on TV and dropping a couple of FSIs is fundamentally changed. One, people don't get the Sunday paper delivered to their home anymore. And two, people are cutting the cable. But as Kristen kind of illustrated with the data, they're still going into physical stores.
and they're going in at scale. And that presents you with a huge opportunity to engage consumers up and down the funnel, from discovery all the way to consideration and conversion.
100%. I think of it as two ways. It's like there's what you try to do mass to bring, as much awareness as possible, but then there's the store, as the starting point for many people to engage with, whether it's your packaging, engaging with, claims that you make. So being able to really try to have almost a flat, if you will, line that a thread that goes from shelf to mass media all the way, back and forth is probably the way that we're trying to win today, and just trying to make sure that there's a continuity of contact. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm just building off that too. It's like the old right time, right message, right?
Yeah.
But how do we really connect all those touch points as well, so that if someone sees something on the way out of the store, that brand's message is continuing to permeate through the digital channels, so that they constantly have that brand and that product top of mind the next time that they're going back into store. So.
Next question comes with a visual, so I'm gonna move. Ooh, it worked! It worked. All right, so let's start at the very beginning, literally.
Yes.
Kristen, how are front entrance experiences reshaping the way brands show up?
Yeah, I think that the front entrance screen is really your first impression when you walk in the store. We know at CVS, the average trip time is around 7.5 minutes. So people are, these are mission driven, but we know that 67% of customers are seeing and actually finding value in the content in the front entrance screens when we actually do intercepts and surveys with our customers to make sure that the experience isn't slowing them down to get to the category, get to the product, get to the shelf that they need to make that purchase at, but they're actually informing them. And we've also really taken the customer feedback and our knowledge of our extra care customers and 144 million customers that come into our store every year. And we're not just putting brand billboards up there either. We're also mixing it with CVS Health and CVS Pharmacy messages that are educational, that are talking about seasonal moments that are relevant to the customer. And we're then amplifying that with relevant brand messages as well.
It's interesting when I think of CVS, when you're on the outside, it may not occur to you, but to a large degree, the store is a pocket of different marketplaces. There's the front end non-pharmacy. There is the pharmacy in the back, and increasingly there are health services, everything from the Minute Clinic to hearing aids to all sort of eyeglasses. Everything is kind of happening in store. And to your point, everybody has a different type of mission when they walk into the store. Some are very intentional for one focus, and the goal, it seems like, is to expose them to something that makes the trip a little bit more interesting and delivers extra value beyond just their primary purpose of walking in. Yeah,
that's exactly right. We're there to create value. And with our waiting area screens within the pharmacy as well, it's a perfect opportunity for us to deliver educational messages as well, that they can then become aware of our full product portfolio in the stores that you just mentioned, the front of the store, the back of the store, the back of the store, the front of the store. And it's a great opportunity as well for many of the OTC brands, especially the ones that Opella has within their portfolio, to then also talk about some of the, side effects for some of the pharmacy products and scripts that people might be picking up as well. So how can we together improve that outcomes that our customers are coming in every day for?
Phil, what do you think about the opportunity to engage consumers if they're walking in a store, not necessarily to buy a product that Opella produces, but to actually expose them to a message that could help them? Maybe not even on that journey. It just builds as a multi-step attribution of the customer journey.
100%. So many of the categories of brands that we have at Opella have only about a 30% penetration rate. So and the need is in the 60s. So, there's a gap of about 30 points, and an opportunity to intercept in store, to engage, to educate, to talk about the benefits potentially of adding this product to your regimen. For example, a lot of people don't even know about topical pain relievers. Like they default to systemic and pills and whatnot. They're like, actually, it's my elbow that hurts. Like, I don't know why I'm ingesting. So those kind of opportunities to say, like, hey, hit pain where it hurts, like not a whole body. So those are all, and they're basket builder potentially, because you still need a systemic, pain reliever, but you might also want to stack it with the topical pain reliever. So tons of opportunities like that.
After this, Philip, you and I need to talk because I've got this acute pain. It's a whole podcast co-host. Just found out that he's building an agent to replace it.
I've just completed the test.
And I need to know if there's anything you've got to help me in my issues. Well done. Okay, thank you. All right. So we start at the beginning, we walk in the store. Let's flip the script and go to the end of the journey, which is the checkout, one that having been responsible for those register receipts and near and dear to my heart. Why is checkout such a powerful and historically underutilized media moment?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because you would think that your basket's already full of products and that this isn't another opportunity to talk to a customer that they're already, finished their shopping and they're on their way out the door. But I think one of the biggest things that we've heard from our customers is that it's a captive moment and it actually helps to reinforce their decisions. So very similar to when you're at a restaurant and you place your order and the waitress says back to you, good choice, or that's my favorite. You then feel really good about what you just ordered and it was the great decision. And the same thing with the checkout screens, right? When you have a product in your basket and you see that brand and that product come up, and it has all of the reinforcing messages around why you made that decision to put that product into your basket and now you're taking it home with you. It gives you that reinforcement that you made the right decision, that you picked the right brand, the right product at shelf. It's also a great opportunity for our brands to introduce themselves to you. So you might actually have a competitive product in basket. And it actually then gives you that opposite effect of maybe I don't have the right product in my basket and maybe I should run back and switch it out. Or maybe next time I come in, I'm going to try that other product. And it's also great for complementary products. So what are those synergistic products that you might have something in your basket? You might have a face wash, but you didn't put the moisturizer in your basket that time. And so how do you start to, again, build that basket, build that behavior so that the next time that person comes in, again, we have that really high return rate at CVS with our customers, over 60% coming in at least once a week. So how did that next trip that they come in, that product is?
And to build on that, as you think about those complementary products, you're not just guessing. You have very rich insights from tens of millions of extra care loyalty members to understand when this is in the basket, these other items are also typically found in the basket. So when you present those opportunities to consumers, it's highly important.
That's right. I mean, you just almost teed up our exact tagline. It's not guessing, it's data.
There you go. I like that. Sorry. I want to follow up. What are you seeing in terms of impact, especially thinking about reinforcing decisions or driving future purchase behavior?
Yeah. I think for us, it's really about building out a really cohesive experience. So, how are we connecting in store, on our website, on our app, and then with the digital experience? And then how do we start to think about bringing that experience out of the store as well? So really creating those multiple touch points, multiple brand moments, but it all has to be connected together and be really personalized, not only for the customer, but for the media asset and the media channel. And that's one of the things we work really closely with our brand partners on as well, is that in-store placement is not just resizing a programmatic digital ad either. And how do we get really scientific based on the data that we have to be able to really help the brands understand the customer behavior and the customer mindset to put the best messages forth in a really concise and consistent way.
And Phil, on that, how do you as a brand think about the message that you want to efficiently deliver as they're getting ready to leave the transaction?
I think for us, it's one, it's, it has to be punchy. It has to be, and often it is hopefully to affirm the purchase that they made the right decision. but potentially also maybe a little bit of education on what it's for or other uses for it, so that they're thinking of use up rate also, not just, hey, I bought it, but now I need to go use it. And what am I going to use it for? And how often and whatnot. So it gives us that opportunity. Maybe
Oh.
not exist. That's right.
All right, I'll start with Philip and then I'll ask Kristen to comment. Beyond entrance and checkout, how are you thinking about stitching together all in-store touch points into a cohesive customer journey experience?
Yeah. So we've got purely in store. I think clearly if we can get product off shelf sometimes, obviously it makes a big difference also in terms of catching people's eye, especially when it's new, especially when it's seasonal. So trying to find another interception point, maybe one or two in store beyond just the shelf, can help that shopper on their journey and just kind of maybe help seal the deal. Even if they don't buy it off the display, they may then go, oh, actually, I do need that, but I want to go look at the shelf to see that, yes, they have the one that I want.
Inventory is critically important to you. Delivering a message and not having product in the store is a failure to launch, so to speak, right? You've built in the enticing communication of the consumer, and then they get disappointed that's not there. So, working with CVS to make sure that the inventory is showing up on the shelf is critical for your activation.
That is something we are obsessed about. And I know in the history of CVS, sometimes store labor can be an issue in putting out product or restocking the shelf. And I think was probably a major shopper pain point, probably starting with COVID, and then maybe, things have recovered now. But I think working together with CVS to make sure that, obviously we have, surety of supply, it's in stock, it's in store, it's well shelved. And that from a shopper standpoint is magical, right? When they can find what they want, where it's supposed to be.
And Kristen, I have to imagine that in order for this all to happen, your team has to be very closely tied to the merchandising group to make sure they understand what you're activating against, so that everything comes together. The inventory is all in store, so the consumer gets that comprehensive and delightful experience.
I think what we call it our one heart approach. And so how do we really bring always together CMX, the merchant, and the marketing team together? And it really helps us not only bring the best experience forward to the customer, but also to our brand partners. And how do we all sit around the table together and really strategize and look at the data and the insights that we have around the extra care customer, making the right decisions for the brand together, and the right approach, the right messaging strategy, the right channel strategy, the right audience strategy, and then coming together to really support that campaign and bring it to market together end to end, which having the inventory on shelf and also driving that performance at the end of the campaign is so important.
Kristen, you've got 9,000 plus stores. How do you balance that scale with relevance at the local level?
Yeah, it really is all about scale and relevance. We have 7,200 standalone stores, but 9,000 stores in the total portfolio. And each of those stores is completely local in that community. So the way that you might visit a store in one city is going to be completely different in a different town and state that you might visit on vacation. It has a localized assortment, and it really feels like that community's neighborhood a store. And it's really important that we make sure that, again, we have the right products on the shelf within that store, but that we also have the right messages to those consumers as well. And we can take a really targeted and strategic approach as to how we bring that brand messaging to life within those local communities as well.
All right. Visual number 2. Let's see. Yes. All right, Philip, let's move from in-store to house.
Yeah.
You participated in one of the first ever experiential activations at the Boston Marathon. What made that opportunity so compelling for Opella to lean in?
So background on the brand Xyzol, which is a brand that you take at night to relieve your allergy symptoms and basically have a productive next day. So our target is basically Gen Z, millennials, And it's a relatively new brand. It's less than 10 years old. It was launched in,
I was at Extra Care when Xyzol launched.
So it's kind of, it's a young brand, it's the newest allergy medication. And so what we've already done before the Boston Marathon is participated in music festivals. So we said, okay, that's where we're going to engage experiential marketing. We have a mascot, Nigel, who's an owl that people love taking pictures with. So we've got this sort of little flywheel in music, and we said, okay, we're not in the Northeast. No festivals are actually in the Boston area that we participate in. And I think, this opportunity came along. We said, okay, how can we surround this? How can we really make the Boston Marathon relevant to allergy, which it is from a seasonal standpoint? And obviously, people who run have to train all winter long and in the spring, and they have to be outside running. So how do we sort of treat their symptoms leading up to the marathon, and then obviously pop in store with activation, with Omni, with display, and really be able to create a wow event? I think at the Boston Marathon, it seemed to have gone really well.
From your perspective, what did that activation unlock that traditional media probably would not have?
Yeah. So the way I like to think about it's you may remember an ad. You do remember a festival or a marathon you went to live in person.
Yeah.
And if you are surrounded by sights of an owl that you're going to now remember, you see a booth that you now remember, you see colors that you now remember. So there's nothing like a real in-life experience. And I think that's what we see.
Kristen, from your perspective, bringing that to life, what was so compelling for you?
I think the first thing is being a Bostonite myself is that the Boston Marathon is the biggest and best day in the city every year. But it really was a great example of, again, our 1 hour approach. So when the merchant, Dan, actually brought us this opportunity to CMX, he said, Xyzol is partnering with the Boston Marathon. They have a team of runners and they want to be able to bring the brand to life during this really special moment. Our team, on the CMX marketing side, quickly got to work to really identify where are all of the CVS stores along the 26.2 mile route. And we found that our Newbury Street store is just a block away from the finish line. And so that was the perfect opportunity for us to then work with our CVS real estate team and the merchandising team to then say, how can we actually utilize this store and elevate the experience for Xyzol and for our customers and for the entire Boston community around this amazing weekend. So what we did, and you can kind of see some of the examples here, is we actually brought Xyzol out of the store onto the sidewalks of Newbury Street, take advantage of the amazing foot traffic over this weekend. They actually closed down Newbury Street, so it actually gave us even more room to work with. The Xyzol team set up a tabling event where people could create signs for the runners. They were branded with Xyzol branding. They could create customized signs. As Philip mentioned, take pictures with the owl, which was a huge hit with all of the families that were in town for the marathon as well. But on top of creating these really memorable experiences for our customers and for the Boston community, it actually improved time spent within the store as well. So we were almost doubling the time spent in store. The dwell time just with the event was upwards of 10 plus minutes. So people were really staying, activating, talking with the Xyzol team, talking with the CVS team, learning about the product, and then they were going in to purchase, which was the ultimate.
So dwell time equates to increased transaction volume and frequency.
Exactly. And so they were really not only just kind of like stopping by, but they were actually really going deep in conversation around the brand and the benefits of the brand, and actually having those moments to talk about what Xyzol is and why it's different and why it's a unique product within the category itself.
Philip, experiential is gaining momentum, but it's still very early for many brands. So if you're talking to some of your colleagues and other companies in this industry, what's holding marketers back?
Of all the art of the possible and really working cross-functionally. It was marketing, sales, shopper team, everybody, obviously all the merchants at CVS were really, really engaged. CMX was all over it. So I would say, and we just did it once for now. And we're already thinking oh, well, how do we do it better? What could we add next year? And to me, it's like a muscle, right? Once you start to do experiential marketing, you learn on each event, what to do better next time and whatnot. So it's like, get started if there's a sweet spot for your brand.
And I think Philip mentioned exactly that, is that experiential is still so new. Only 30% of brands are actually doing experiential right now. And I think the biggest thing is that a lot of brands are spending a lot of money on sponsorships, but they're not actually able to always then prove out the ROI, right? And directly correlate it back to sales, to product sales. And that's one thing with partnering with CMX and being able to do an experiential activation and building off of a sponsorship or a larger partnership that's happening at that same time, is that we can actually correlate that with the brand sales. And we actually saw, I think it was over a 400% increase year over year in a sales lift from Xyzol SKUs. And we also, when we then looked at the next 6 weeks, we then saw almost a 40% sales lift for Xyzol in 6 weeks, actually following the event as well. So to be able to then prove back that we're moving units, we're driving brand engagement is a really powerful message to brands around as they're thinking about testing out experiential and how to do it. We can really test and learn together.
So double clicking down, since you opened this door on measurement, measurement has always been a challenge in physical retail. How are you helping brands like Opella understand true impact happening now?
Yeah, everything that we do at CMX has always been rooted in data and measurement. But it's really hard, right? Because the expectation of retail media is that we're measuring one-to-one, and that's not always possible with in-store. And so we have partnered with the IAB. We follow the IAB's measurement standards and best practices. And we're still learning together, not only with the brands, but with a lot of our technology partners who are in-store as well, as to really how do we marry back that exposure. So we know who was in our stores, what media was running on those screens or on our audio units. And then we can look back at where those placements were, where they were in store, and then what did they purchase, and be able to correlate a little bit of that back. And being really transparent with our brands, though, upfront about what we can truly measure, how we are measuring, and then what the performance and outcomes were. And if we're being really transparent with each other, trying to get better together and continuing to have great brands like Opella push us on that, we're just going to continue to move in the right direction.
Phil, you are responsible to your board and by extension, your shareholders to deliver brand equity and long-term value. So you're responsible for delivering both the quarter and the decade. Kind of seems a little challenging to do. So my question is, what do you need to see to keep investing in-store, and what metrics matter the most to you?
I mean, bottom line is retail sales. So I want to see consumption. So that's obviously the first pull, the first signal that we want to see. But beyond that, like you said, we're in this for the long haul, and that brand has to keep building equity. Particularly for Xyzol, it has very low awareness still as a 9-year-old brand. So the more we can, put it in people's head, what's our point of difference? Oh, you take that one at night. Okay, that's different than the other one. So, that penny will eventually drop amongst more households, more shoppers, and then we can, grow the brand that way. Short and
Okay. And Kristen, from your perspective, how do you feel CVS Media Exchange is enabling brands like Opella to do exactly that, to get what they need to make the investment continue and expand?
I think it's all about great partnership, which is kind of what we've been talking about from the beginning, is making sure that we're sitting down together and having those really strategic conversations about what are the goals that they're going into the year, that we're looking for each of their brands within their portfolio. And then working together with us to identify the right audiences, the right media channels, the right time of year to deploy that campaign. And it's really about that intelligence and that integration and how we come to market together.
So as we close this out, I'll ask Philip first, and then Kristen second. In a sentence, what do you think will define the next era of in-store media?
I think it will become even more connected in the sense that we're all carrying portable devices. So what are the signals that will happen, for each individual shopper, and how do you really make it like your store visit, and really be able to like try to take that to the next level and make it really, really personal.
And the closed loop system of measurements with all of those signals coming together really help you stitch that together.
Yeah, it will make us believe it more.
Yeah.
I think digital in store will continue to grow. I think we just have to find the right balance, right? To not also impede, but actually add to the customer journey. But I think with the data that we have, we'll continue to be able to use that in smarter ways that are more contextually relevant and really continuing to drive exactly what Philip said, that the connected journey experience throughout the store together.
Philip, Kristen, we want to thank you for stopping by the House of Consumer Goods and Retail here at Cannes for the 2026 festival and sharing your thoughts on the in-store and beyond. Thank you. To our listeners and the over 46,000 followers on LinkedIn, thank you for doing what you do every day, whether you're building brands, driving retail partnerships, deploying technology, or shaping the future of commerce. You are the industry we cover, and this podcast exists because of you. If today's conversation sparked something for you, maybe a new idea, fresh perspective, or just a reminder of why this industry is worth showing up for every day, just share it. Tag us, tell a colleague. The more voices we bring into this community, the sharper all of us get. Until next time, keep pushing the conversation forward. I'm PVSB on behalf of my co-host, Papa Raj. This has been the CPG Guys podcast.